Frankenmuir. So I came up with the idea, actually, to make holiday cards for my patients that I work with at the hospital. Funny thing is, right, because I do individual and group therapy at the hospital with a group of, well, I have a caseload of, I think, 24. All men, by the way. And most of them they suffer from severe mental illness. So we're talking about like schizophrenia, schizoaffective, delusions, hallucinations, manic depression, mania, all of the above, right? And so we were in group. I was running a group, I think it was Friday, right before the weekend. And I came up with this idea in order to increase like engagement and interest within the guys I shared with them that number one, I paint. Not that I'm an artist, but in my free time I enjoy painting. Because I learned that at the hospital they actually have an activity group where they get a chance to paint with the activity therapist. But they don't like it. They don't like painting. I'm like, I thought that was interesting. I'm like, you guys don't like painting? It's so fun, right? I get it. Not everyone likes what I like, right? So I brought that up with them in group, and they were like, And I said, well, I like to paint, and I actually am going to paint 2 paintings over this weekend. And I did, and I told them that I will bring it in this coming week and share it with them just to get their perspective on the paintings, right? And they seemed to like really perk up. It was like, oh, okay. Like I'm getting them to participate. I'm soliciting their interest, and not only that, but their perspective, their opinion, which communicates that they are valued, because oftentimes like this population are kind of pushed under the rug and, you know, overlooked. They've been oftentimes institutionalized for an extended period of time, so they just are looked at as another number, you know, and not necessarily a human being who has feelings and their own opinion and, you know, dreams and hopes and wishes and a perspective and all of that. And so for me, I've always taken a different approach in working with like patients and clients. That's just me, I think, and it comes from like my own personal experience, dealing with what I've dealt with in life, because life can be pretty tough, and I empathize with my patients a lot and share my sentiments with them to say, like, I can't say that I completely understand everything you've been through, but I can relate. So back in 2009, I actually wrote an autobiography called American Dreamer, and alongside coming up with this idea, where I initially, like I said, I was going to bring in my paintings and to the hospital, and in the group have each guy like share their perspective, their opinion on it, have them rate it, like give me some feedback, right? And like I said, they seemed to be interested, and I was like looking forward to them, like cool. So I can't let them down. But I thought about it, like, given certain things aren't necessarily allowed at the hospital because it can be considered a hazard. So all of my paintings are on canvas board, by the way. Right, which is basically canvas over wood and stapled together. So I'm like, okay, that might be too much to bring that into the hospital. So instead, I decided to make prints of my paintings that I did over the weekend, and I think they came out really nice. So I'm gonna show you guys. I pretty much printed the exact same design for each of these cards. I only printed 20. Now I do have a caseload of 24 that are housed on my ward. But a good number of guys are more isolative. They stay in their rooms. Like, they don't really want to come out. They're like, not that they can't come out, right? Like, they're ambulatory. It's just that they really don't. So I think to reinforce and like encourage the guys who do come out, I am going to actually give them a treat. We'll see if they like it. I don't know. They may. Now, granted, majority of the guys on my ward are black. They're melanated. So, like I said, they seemed to perk up when I told them that I would bring in my paintings and share it with them. They didn't know that I was actually going to give them a copy. And this is the first time I've actually printed my work. So, you guys know I take my work near and dear. It's near and dear to my heart. But so are my patients and my clients that I work with. So, I feel like I can do this. So, what I'm going to do, granted that I was telling you guys, I also started writing my autobiography, which I completed a year later in 2010. I planned to publish it in 2010, but some things came up. I decided to hold off. With this autobiography called American Dreamer that I wrote about my life, I have some quotes. 3 pages worth of quotes, and I came up with the idea maybe to put a quote on the back of each of these. Now let me see. I don't know if I'm going to be able to write on it. I do have this pen and I have a marker. Don't fall over, laptop. I do have this marker. So let's see how this works. I'm going to try the pen first. Oh, by the way, so this is what it looks like. I know it's going to show up in reverse because I am live here on Facebook. So you guys know that I did these two paintings over the weekend, which I believe are Osiris. Could be someone else, but could also pass for Osiris, and Nefertiti. And then here on the other side it says that good things are coming. So it's just a matter of perspective, right? How we see things. Granted, life is tough, unfortunately. And sometimes tougher for other people, some of us. So, I like to inspire people because I always say, like, I can identify a lot with what my patients go through because I've lived a lot. A lot of y'all have no idea. I sometimes share bits and pieces of my experiences, things that I've gone through in life, but I have no idea. And I wrote a book. It's not really a tell-all book. It's more of a motivational story. More political, actually, I would say, in nature. So it's definitely going to ruffle some feathers. That's why I've been very calculated with how I'm going to go about the release. So I'm going to take one quote and I'm going to write it on the back here. I do not have the best handwriting. So I don't know how this is going to go, y'all. My handwriting is terrible, okay? Alright, let's see. Dreams come to those who have a desire to dream. Consider a dream the seed and the tree the manifestation of that dream. Dreams are merely seeds waiting to be planted. I love that quote. I don't know if I'm going to write the entire quote here, though. But let's see how this... I don't know if this is going to write because I thought this was going to be cardstock, but it's actually glossy photo type of paper. So, I don't know. Let's see. Oh, wow. It's writing. You know how some pens make it seem like you have really nice handwriting? This is one of those pens. It's working in my favor. Let's not speak too soon, though. Come to those. Who have a desire to dream. Consider a dream the seed and the tree the manifestation. I mean, I could have easily printed, right? I could have ordered like 2-sided It was, the difference in printing cost was only like 25 cents, I think, per card, to make it two-sided, where I could have had something on the back side of it. I could have added like these quotes, but I didn't do that. Dreams are merely seeds waiting to be planted. That can be a whole separate one. So that's it. And I'm just going to sign my name. Dr. Danielle. That's not how I sign my name, but I like to spell it out so they can remember. I don't know how much of this I'll be able to write. I do have more pens though, just in case. So that's the first one. Yeah. All right. This is the next one. So that first quote that I read, I'm actually going to break it up into two parts. Dreams are merely seeds waiting to be planted. Now I could use the marker, but what do I do with the marker? The marker is here. Let's see. I just feel like it's a lot to write, and it may not come out as clear. Alright. So I have another quote, which actually can be broken up into two. It says, "Are you not convinced that your purpose is to live, and to live is to fulfill your purpose?" Now these are aphorisms that I came up with while I was like going through my most difficult time of my life, right? Back in 2009. I actually was homeless. That was my struggle phase, as I call it. And so that's kind of how I took to writing my autobiography, because I'm a kind of person, like, I like to alchemize energy, right? And even, let's say, bad experiences, I make it into something good, right? That's why I can never lose, because I know how to turn anything into something magnificent. I think I have perfected turning lemons into lemonade. So let's see. I don't know how this is going to write. Dreams are merely visions waiting to happen. See, this is too thick. I can just write dreams are, and it might wash off though. Visions waiting. I need more of like a felt tip pen. Waiting to. I mean, you can read it, but it's really thick, so I can't use this. But I'd like to see how it looked though. I tried. I tried it, right? Alright. It has to dry so it doesn't smudge. I am going to rewrite my book, my story. Given that, I initially wrote it back in 2009. So of course a lot has transpired since then. So I have more chapters to add. But on top of that, I have some like tweaking to do too. Because I've matured. So my perspective has changed. But I'm thinking, you know what? I thought like, okay, well maybe I can release a version of the book as is. Because this would be like, okay, we're talking about 2009. Yo, how many years ago was that? We're talking about 12 years ago. Wow, almost 13 years ago. So I'm 38, 26 years old, right? 12 years ago, I was 26. Yeah, definitely matured since then. Are you not convinced that your purpose is to live and to live? Now, I know some of these may not make sense, but it makes a lot of sense to me. And it definitely made even more sense to me when I wrote it. Purpose is to live, and to live is to fulfill. Especially when you think about the context in which I wrote these in. I can only imagine what I was going through emotionally, psychologically. Like I said, this was when I was homeless. The big H word. Alright. Wow, that is a powerful quote. Oh my gosh. Okay, the next quote. This is number 3, but like I said, the other 2 quotes I broke up into 2. Right? So I already done 4 already because I broke the other 2 up into. I broke them in half. Listen to this one, y'all. This is head on. An overachiever's worst nightmare isn't facing death or an unexpected tragedy. It is facing the possibility that he or she will never be able to measure up to the asinine expectations of this world. I love myself. Being that I'm a writer and I appreciate stories, I'm really fascinated by other people's stories too. Like, do you ever wonder when you look at people who life has like handled their ass, right? I.e., people living on the street. You ever wonder like how they get there? An overachiever's worst nightmare isn't facing death. Not only how did they get there, but what was their life like before they got there? Right? Like that movie, The Soloist. But I think even with The Soloist, we don't get to see like how he got there. I mean, we get to see like the inner workings of his mind. I believe he had schizophrenia. But you don't see like, okay, because a person isn't born with schizophrenia, right? So something happened along the road. What happened? An overachiever's worst nightmare isn't facing death or an unexpected tragedy. It is facing the possibility that he or she will never be able to measure up to the asinine expectations of this world. I'm trying to do my best handwriting. was one point when I actually did have good handwriting. That was way back elementary school though. But since like, I would say maybe high school, definitely college, when I used to take a lot of notes and write really fast, as a professor was speaking, I lost my what do you call it? Legibility. Never be able to measure up to, it's a long quote, but it's worth it. Asinine expectations. By the way, this book I'm writing on, using to write on, is my dissertation. Woo, woo, woo. That's the title of my dissertation. It's my name. And where you can find it. Expectations of this world. I always say I can't wait to release my autobiography. But obviously, clearly I can wait, right? It's not like I'm in a rush to release it. I think I can't wait because I've waited for so long. And I'm ready, I'm ready to really share my story and to see the impact of sharing my story has on the world. I'm ready for that. Some of these quotes are they have like a religious undertone to them, so I'm not going to use them here. I most likely won't use them in my book, American Dreamer. That's a great example of what I mean by having to tweak some things, because given that I have matured psychologically, emotionally, and politically, the tone of my story is somewhat different than what it was when I originally wrote it. It's going to be different, shall I say. So there are quotes that, like I said, do have like religious undertones to them, but I'm not going to put that in there. I can tweak it though. So, for example, I'll read this one. It says, as soldiers in the army of the Lord, I used to be a devout Christian back in the day. As soldiers in the army of the Lord, we need to go through some training. This training comes with many trials and tribulations, obstacles and setbacks, denials and letdowns. And to pass this training, we must be willing to take up our armor, hold on to our faith, and go on to the battlefield knowing we've already won the battle. So I can tweak this for it to say, simply, in life, right, we need to go through some training. This training comes with many trials and tribulations. Or I can interchange training with battles, right? So I'm going to use that. In life, we must go through some battles. The battles come with many trials and tribulations, obstacles and setbacks, denials and letdowns. It's really philosophical, so these quotes can apply to anyone who's struggling with something, going through something, whether it is, dealing with mental illness, something that is a long-lasting battle, or whether it's dealing with the loss of a loved one, loss of a job, a midlife crisis. I'm having deja vu. I do have some patients though who are religious, so. Obstacles and setbacks, denials and letdowns. This kind of gives you a peek into some things that I went through. A little bit. Denials and letdowns. I can leave it at that. Boom. And then the next one will be the second part. To pass the battle, we must be willing to take up our armor and hold on to our faith and go onto the battlefield knowing we've already won the battle. I've always been self-motivated. We must be willing to take up our armor, hold on to our faith. And faith could be faith in God, Jesus Christ, Buddha, higher power, and the sun god, Ra. Could be in anything or anyone. Hold on to our faith and go on to the I'll read this for them though. They're gonna be like, what does this say? Onto the battlefield knowing I might order me some lasagna. We've already won the battle. Somebody's gonna feel very lucky to get the one that I wrote with the marker. Because that's the only one that's like that. Alright. Going to the next one. I had an interesting dream last night, which was somewhat related to the work that I do. I vaguely remember it though. Oh, I love this one. So this one says, you don't need a bond or a court hearing to be released from the prison of the foolish opinion of others. Your freedom is in your own thinking. This is head on too for a lot of them, because some of them, they call it 330-20 cases, which means that they committed a criminal offense that kind of landed them where they are in the hospital. To be released. I'm gonna play some music, but also want to monetize this too. To be released from the prison of foolish opinion. It's very foolish though, because people often prejudge, right? They make assumptions about people, particularly people's situation, and they don't know anything about that person or their situation. They just jump to conclusions, but then when they have more information, then they feel bad. They're like, oh, I'm sorry. And it's just like, how ignorant. That's why it's best just to zip your lips and not say anything, instead of jumping to conclusions about a person or prejudging a person based on their current situation. Foolish opinion of others. Your freedom is in your own thinking. Yes. Kodak. Alright, so this is another one. Some blessings of God are already in us. Some are readily visible. Others you have to look deep within. So instead of putting the word God, definitely going to take that out. Not everyone believes in God, right? So, but I love the colors of this. I love it. Alright. I'm going to send some to my family too, down there in Florida. Some blessings. But there's going to be a lot bigger though. This is like a small little token. When I'm going to send my dad, it's probably going to be like decent size. Maybe like an 8 by 10 or something like that. Some blessings of God. Because this is a... What size is this? This is a 4 by 8. Some blessings. Oh, I put God. Alright, too late. It was meant to be, right? It was meant to be, so. Readily visible. Others, you have to look deep within. I mean, I recognize that not everyone obviously is religious, but a good number of them are, they're old school, so they're like Christian or Muslim. This is a simple quote, beautifully written. The secret to happiness is simple. Just accept yourself and find an appreciation of life. It sounds so simple, and I wanted to make it deliberately simple. But is it that simple? Right? Is it really that simple? I'm asking you guys. Is the secret to happiness really that simple? Just accepting yourself and appreciating life? Just like we did the mindful meditation gratitude walking vlog today. I do that on a regular basis, but I wanted to take you guys with me to show you guys how I do it. And I hate that my videos were chopping up today. Like, fuck, why? Really good content, but it was choppy. But I still posted it anyway because I don't care. Alright. But yeah, so much can change about our internal state by how we look at things, how we perceive situations in our environment. A lot of people say these things, right, as cliche statements, but to live it is another thing. And everything that I wrote here, these quotes, I'm not just saying it because it sounds good. I wrote these from personal experience. Like, I've been through it, right? So I know, because this is how I got through what I went through. And this is how I encourage and motivate myself to overcome what I was going through back then, 2008, 2009, 2010, it was a good period of time when I was struggling. I actually started back in 2007. Yeah. Just accept yourself. So this is like me talking to myself, but talking to my reflection, right? Which is you guys and the people that I impact on a day-to-day basis. I think words resonate differently when they're coming from a source, a place of know-how, of direct experience. Right? It's one thing for a person to say a quote that sounds beautiful, but when it's coming from the soul of a person who's been through some shit, right? And the things they've been through, the person receiving that information, that quote, that inspiration, they can relate to that same experience. It hit different, yo. I'm telling you, it hit different. For real. So when I be speaking to my clients, I be speaking to their soul. I look directly into their soul. So I can see their soul. And I look directly into it. That might be too much for some of y'all. Some of y'all don't believe nothing unless it's rooted in science. But anyway. So the next one is also kind of religious too. When God is in it, it will succeed. Let your light shine ever so bright that the world can see. That can be broken up into two too. I can replace God with your faith, right? When your faith is in it, it will succeed. Right? And then the second part to that is let your light shine ever so bright that the world can see. I don't care about being called doctor, especially with this population. And I learned a really important lesson at my previous clinical site where I work, where I did my pre-doc internship, where we didn't go by doctor. Like even my supervisors who had been doctors for several years didn't go by doctor. Then no one went by doctor, purposefully because they didn't want to make the clients feel like inferior, right, or create some kind of power dynamic, even though it's like a unstated power dynamic that exists between clinicians and clients or whatever. It's just it doesn't have to be reiterated, right? And so that population I was working with, those were children, teens, and adults with developmental and intellectual disabilities, right? Like traumatic brain injury, autism, learning disability, intellectual disability. So yeah, I understood that, and so I kind of like kept that same approach when I transitioned and started my job where I work at now at the hospital. But my colleagues were saying that they go by doctor and they are like really enthused to call me doctor. I'm like, honestly, I didn't expect to be called doctor until I got licensed. I'm working towards my licensure this year, actually. Um, like my first year there at the hospital. Within this first year, I'll be gaining my hours and working towards licensure. So I'm like, that's not really what I expected. But I'm like, yeah, you want to let the patients know to address you as Dr. Leach. Okay. Not that it matters to me, because I actually introduced myself to the patients as Danielle. You can call me Miss Danielle. You can call me Danielle. Just call me by my name. I feel like that's enough right there. That's respectful. Call me by my name. But anyway, the next one. I like this one too. So this one says, getting old isn't about focusing on what you have lost. Getting old is about looking at all of the priceless things you have gained. It's something we all should look forward to. Very simple, right? I'm going to leave the last part off though. This kind of goes without saying. Or it's implied, shall I say. Getting old isn't about focusing I think also was delaying the release of my book, my autobiography. One is that it's political. I already kind of worked out how I'm going to address that issue that came up when I was going to release it in 2010, because I got threatened. Someone threatened a lawsuit. I didn't even fucking release the book. Someone threatened a lawsuit. I'm like, okay, I see how I approach this. But not only that, but also seeing how I want to structure it, because it's going to be structured differently. I've come up with some ideas on how I want to structure the chapters in my autobiography. Initially, when I wrote it, how it is written now, as it is, it's kind of linear, right? It doesn't cover every single thing that happened in my life, right? Because every single thing, I guess you can say, you can make the argument that everything that happens in a person's life is important, but not necessarily though. Like, there are really poignant times in my life that I talked about in my autobiography, and I string those events together. It's written really nice. I can't wait to share it with you guys. But yeah, we're talking about when I finished writing it back in 2010. Okay, 2010. Was I living in Atlanta? I think I had moved back to Florida then. So this is so many years ago, right? We're already in 2021. We're talking about 11 years ago. It's a long time ago. All right, getting old isn't about focusing on what you have lost. Exactly. Getting old is about, I was walking down 8th Avenue, and I heard, like, there was some white guys that was walking, like, alongside me, kind of behind me a little bit, and they were like, oh, they're talking about the game, I guess. I'm not into sports, but they're talking about, like, the Jaguars, and so my attendance kind of went up, like, Jaguars. And I figured they were talking about Jacksonville. I wasn't sure. And he mentioned Jacksonville. And I looked at him. I said, I'm from Jacksonville. And he was like, you're a Jaguars fan? I'm like, no. Just heard y'all say Jacksonville. Anyway, getting old is about... But they were talking about, like, they were really enthused. I'm like, you really have Jacksonville fans in New York? But anyway, Jacksonville Jaguar fans in New York. I didn't think they were really that big of a team. Getting old is about looking at... See, I'm going to select who gets which one. Priceless things. next one is kind of personal because it's written in first person. Let's see. That's a good one, but I'm not going to write that because it may take it the wrong way. I understand what I meant, and I think you guys may understand, but the way sometimes their thinking works, they are more concrete thinkers, so they're going to interpret this very literal. Um, I'll read it, and y'all tell me what y'all think that this means, right? So, I say, I realize that a lot of steps I take towards a particular goal I don't think much about, which is true. I make the first step, and before I realize it, I'm within arm's reach of my goal. I believe that if you think too much about a thing, then your thinking may somehow get in the way, right? Because it's like your mind begins to be more rational about every aspect of what you're working towards. And a lot of times, some goals and visions are so they're very kind of complex, right, and multi-layered, that the way you go about achieving that goal, it just may not make any sense. So I go on to say that it is by illogical thinking, kind of like not really thinking in a rational way. Almost kind of like they say, you got to lose your mind a little bit, you know what I'm saying, to achieve some goals and visions, because it's just that intricate and complex, and it's just like a spider web of different pathways that you take, right? And so if you're thinking towards a goal that you want to achieve, knowing that this goal and vision is a conglomerate of all these different spider webs to get there, it's going to be very confusing when you're thinking about how you're going to get there, right? But then if you don't think about it, you just move in that direction and know that the universe will align people, things, and places to help you along the way, then that's how you get there. I'm not going to write that one, though. But I can write, you know what? I can write this part of it. Actually, I can take two parts of it. So I'm going to take the part where it says, I make the first step. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to write the first part. I realize that a lot of steps I take towards a particular goal I don't think much about. I make the first step, and before I realize that, I'm within arm's reach of my goal. So I can go with that one. That part. I take towards a particular goal I don't think much about. I make the first step, and that's how I've approached everything that I've achieved, pretty much. Whether it was me moving to New York from Atlanta, I just moved here kind of blindly. Just, it may seem unconventional or illogical, right? But hey, it worked out. You know, I'm like, it worked out. So, and I moved here by myself. Interesting. When I think about it, though, right? Because I moved to Atlanta actually twice, not once, but twice. The first time was a crapshoot. I moved with someone else, right? And I realized that, other people can dampen your progress towards a dream, towards a goal or a vision. They can, and they will, especially if they just don't have that same vision that you have, right? It wasn't implanted within them. So that's where sometimes you got to be careful when it comes to like partnership, friendships, love, dating, marriage, and all of that, where you have this pathway that you're on, right? Individually, everyone has their own path, right? But then you partner with someone, you fall in love and all of that, marriage, right? And it's just like, now this person is stringing you along, but they not with you. And I had a major issue with that. My ex, now we were best friends, but he just didn't see the vision. Because he wasn't given the vision. He need to see it, right? And so it was just like, I have, like I said, like I have this imagination is just like kind of incredible way of looking at things, right? And seeing things into the future. And I saw that, okay, this is part of my journey, right? Moving to Atlanta. And he was just like, he came along like, not really motivated, right? And it's like, no wonder it didn't work out, right? And we ended up moving back to Florida 3 months later. This is part of my story, okay? Part of my story, but a little snippet here. For you guys who made it this far into the video, a little snippet. It's a little treat. See, I be dropping little treats here and there for y'all. And so, yeah, I remember those days. And then the second time around, I think I waited a year. It was a whole year. Where 2011, I want to say, was it February? Sometime around then. 2011, we ended up moving back to Atlanta, and I lived there for 3 years. But it was still like our progress. It was like we was barely making it, kind of thing, right? Though I had a lot of good memories in Atlanta that period when I was living there, from 2011 to 2014. A lot of memorable moments. I had a chance to meet Tyler Perry. I was working at Tyler Perry Studios, just doing things that I know I wouldn't have had a chance to do living in Florida, in Jacksonville. I met so many celebrities working on like various TV and film shoots. So that was just like getting to see what it's like, that whole Hollywood kind of thing. That was cool, right? But I always said I wanted to pursue the highest degree, attainable within my field, which would be a PhD in clinical psychology, and that's something I always wanted to do. And that, me moving to New York City back in 2014, that was kind of part of it, working towards my master's, finishing my master's degree, and then I started my PhD out in Los Angeles. Granted, I moved to New York from Atlanta, and I left him behind, right? Because I just can't. You're not going to get in my way. You have some women, they put their life on hold. And people may say this may sound feministic, like feminism or whatever. No, I'm not a feminist. I am just a woman who is self-driven, and I take my success very fucking seriously, because I'm not a failure, yo. I know what kind of tree I come from. I come from a tree of hard-working, successful people, and yeah, I'm not going to be a disgrace to myself or to my family, though I had my rough period in my life that I went through. And so I'm just like, listen. And he had an opportunity to come, right? So we actually took a trip to New York, but for him, I guess he wasn't motivated, right? He didn't really feel like, okay, because I feel like if you really want to do something, you're going to make that shit happen. You know what I'm saying? Ain't nothing getting in your way. Like me, I knew I wanted to be in New York. When I came here, I'm like, hell yeah, this is it. But for him, even though he interviewed, I think at a few places, it's just like, I feel like he was holding me down. That's what it was. He was holding me down. And I think that was part of his, we're not really friends anymore. But now that I'm talking this out loud, yo, I'm having kind of epiphany. Because I see like, damn, he really didn't, I won't say he didn't believe in me. I just felt like it wasn't genuine, right? You have people that they want to be your friend and say, okay, they believe in you and they supposedly cheer you on, right? But deep down inside, your success really frightens them. It's like a threat to them, especially if they're not rising with you. And that's pretty much what happened. Like I'm no joke. Like when I'm working towards something, I want to achieve something, I'm gonna make that happen. I've always been that way. So like I was saying, there are some women, their success is stalled, and they may want to go to school, get a degree, or into a certain profession, but their life is put on hold because they're chasing behind some man. Want to pour into his vision. And granted, there's nothing wrong with doing that, right? Because me being an old school fashion submissive woman, that's how I would like for things to go. But there's a danger to that. A lot of black women fall in that trap where they give they all to a man. You know, the black woman, we gonna be there for our man. We there. You know, and that's how I was. I was there. But how much are you gonna be there for a man? Like, what the fuck are you gaining? You know what I'm saying? You get left, and this motherfucker lead your ass to the abyss. You know what I'm saying? Like, nah, it can't go down like that, right? So at some point, black women recognize, like, nah, this ain't going nowhere. You know, you might lead me to hell. You know. Now it's one thing, yeah. Well, black woman gonna stick and rise with a black man if he's going somewhere, right? But nah, motherfucker ain't going nowhere. He ain't. Ask a motherfucker what you want to do, where you see yourself 5 years from now. They can't tell you. They don't have nothing, like nothing, zero, zilch. You know, any kind of vision, like nah, that's scary. Like, how does a black man want a black woman to follow him? You want to be the leader, but you don't even know where the fuck you're going. So we just supposed to blindly just somehow, nah. But now that I'm talking this thing out, like, yeah, I realize. Yeah, I think my success really was a trigger for him. And not just him, but also my most recent ex, who I met when I moved to New York. And I dated for 3 years. And he actually came with me out to LA. Right? He was a head of household, paid all the bills, took care of me and all that good stuff right now. You know, this is related though. I know I'm doing this. And I'm actually only have a few more to go. 1, 2, 3, 4... 5, 6, yeah, and this is 7. I started from this, I think I have 6 more to go, but I can tell, like, he felt intimidated by my success. And it's funny, not all black men, but you'll have some that want to say, I don't care about your degrees. I came across a guy profile on a dating app. Just think today, I was swiping, and his tagline said, I don't care about your degrees, and he falling behind that goddamn stupid ass life coach, so supposed life coach, KS. It's just ignorance, right? It's ignorance, but then on the same token, you have those same men say, oh, I want to meet someone who can have an intelligible conversation. Not that you have to fucking have a degree to be able to have a fucking back and forth conversation, but it's kind of like a contradiction, because typically those people who are able to have those kinds of conversations, you're saying you want to be sparked and stimulated intellectually, then you come across someone like that who just so happens to have a fucking PhD, or you feel threatened. Like, that's how you know this man ain't got no vision, because any man with a vision is going to take that and multiply it. And vice versa, women can do the same thing. So whatever you got going on as a man, whatever that is, whether it's your own business or whatever, you know, her PhD, yeah, it's a piece of paper, but it's a credential that can help. Like, you can do something with that, and it put 2 heads together and multiply. Why do you feel some kind of way by that? To me, that's ignorance. That's I don't know, I'm off on a tangent, but I feel like this is all related, because it's taking me down memory lane, especially reading some of these quotes that I wrote way back in 2009. These quotes actually came from my book, American Dreamer, that I am sharing here on these holiday cards. I'm going to hand out individually to my patients that I treat at the hospital. But it's just like, yeah, that's something very calculated and careful when it comes to dating, because nobody ain't gonna get in my way, male or female. But it typically is like your counterpart, you know, the male, you know, sometimes be slowing women down, falling behind love. Fuck love. I don't think much about. I make the first step, and before I make the first step, and then, like, none of this shit makes sense, right? Because these same men be like, oh, they want a woman to go 50-50. Okay. You know, typically women that are doctors have a decent source of income. So, given these men, you want a woman to split the bills, she gonna be able to split the bills and do more than that, right? She can take care of herself. In fact, she really don't need your ass financially, but she's with you because she probably want to procreate and have kids, you know, want to do the traditional family thing. But they don't make any goddamn sense. You know, you can tell they are fucking robots. Just repeating, regurgitating some shit they heard some dumbass life coach say that everybody watching on Instagram. Don't make any fucking sense. And before I realized it, you want a woman that is educated, that's smart, that is able to problem solve effectively, because it's not so much about the degree as it is the training and the discipline that took to get that degree that is a desirable trait. Dumbass motherfucker. I had to say that. And not only that, but it will make her a good mother too, right? Something wrong with these men. I mean, I can get that perspective from the stance of they don't care about the white man's credentials, right? It coming from a white man, so I can get it from that perspective. But listen, we all live in this goddamn society. We all trying to advance something, right? We all trying to get to the bag, however you get it, whether it's through, you know, being a professional, working within corporate, or is owning your own business. So the equivalent to that statement coming from a female perspective, a woman can't say, I don't give a damn about your goddamn business. The business that you own. See how that sounds? Does that make any damn sense? If we're talking about building a family, so what do you care about? Do you even care about building a family? Being a good example for the children that you're raising? People are like, we need help as a black community for real. Before I realized it, I'm within arm's reach. It's like, instead of feeling intimidated by a woman's success and you looking at a degree as a threat because it has meaning to it, right? In the context of the society in which we live in, and you don't, let's say, have a degree, like that's where that come from. Motherfuckers feel inferior. Silly. Instead of doing that, why not just work harder and rise up? But those be the same motherfuckers that be going out doing illegal shit, robbing people. They don't want to go out and get their own. They want to sit up here and take from you. You gotta be careful about those kind of men. But at least they come out and admit it. Cut that shit off. At least they put it out on the table, so you know what you're dealing with. I don't even give my energy to those kind of people like that. I'm within arm's reach of my goal. So yeah, until I find a man who's on my level, so to speak, not threatened by my success, because I'm gonna keep rising. So, you know, got mine, you better get yours. Like Bernie Mac say, I got mine, you better get yours. Alright. So I can use this other part too. I believe that if you think too much about a thing, then your thinking may somehow get in the way. I get it, black men have it hard. You know, the black women may not even know, can't even understand. We may know it to say that we truly understand the black man's struggle, because we're not the black man. You don't know what it's like to be a black man until your ass, you is a black man. We're not a black man, so we don't know. We both are racially oppressed, but racial oppression for women, I don't know why my video be doing that. I hate it. Fucking be chopping up, y'all. But racial oppression for the black woman looks much different than racial oppression for the black man. You know, to even have a Million Man March, to have to tell motherfuckers I am a man, is different, you know? Like, women, we can handle, not to say we deserve it, but we have a bigger tolerance, I think, when it comes to dealing with struggle. It's almost like we're built for it, we're made for it. Whereas a man, you know, being stripped of his authority and right to be a head of household and be able to provide, that's a whole nother thing. Right? It's one thing, okay, as a black woman, we're denied certain access to resources, right? Okay, that affects us, but not to the extent that it affects a black man and his identity as a man altogether, you know, is emasculating towards the black man. And so just imagine that process of emasculation and feminization of the black man, like you just tearing him down layer by layer. You know, not being able to provide for himself, let alone his family, and being disrespected, just being looked at as the worst, the scum of the earth. You know, not even being worth called, like, you got animals that are esteemed higher than black men in this society that we live in. That's awful. And so how do they regain a sense of self-worth or value? They date the motherfucking prize, a white man's woman. Someone commented on my video said, "Oh, I didn't know that the white woman belonged to the white man." It went right over his fucking head. Just some people, they live in a totally different world, so they don't get it. I believe that if you think too much about a thing, then your thinking may somehow get in the way. Like I said, these quotes, these aphorisms, came from my own personal experience and just me, right? You can tell, like, this is a reflection of me speaking to myself. Somehow get in the way, because I do tend to be thinking a lot about stuff, longer and more than what I need to. It's like, yeah, let that shit go. Let it go. Alright, I like this next one. Faith sees what the naked eye can't see. What appears impossible to the naked eye has already been called into existence to those who have faith. It's a whole nother level of faith right there. So I can break this down into two. Actually three. Faith sees what the naked eye can't see. That can be one. What appears impossible to the naked eye has already been called into existence to those who have faith. And then the naked eye only sees them out, and faith moves her out of the way. Absolutely. That might be another component too. We talk about black women versus black men and their viability in this society that is racially oppressive. And one may say, not just one may say, but also research supports this, that a lot of black women are doing a lot better than a lot of black men, y'all, for real. Politically speaking, or socioeconomically speaking, shall I say. But you ask the question, why though? What accounts for the difference? And it could be in how we cope with the stress. Given the struggle is kind of similar, right? Similar, not the same. Because black women, yeah, we're targeted by police just as black men are. Sometimes our name, that's why they create the whole phrase, say her name, like, we're not recognized as much. It doesn't get as much media attention, but we still going through it too. But the black man, if you were to ask a question, and if one can do, let's say, a research study to determine who is a bigger threat to white people, or the structure, right, the system, it would be black men. Black men or black women? Who's a bigger threat? Black men, especially a masculine, right, alpha black man, of course. Faith sees what the naked eye can't see. I'm almost done, actually. appears impossible to the naked eye has already been called into existence. And the goal definitely is to go into private practice. I mean, I like, of course, like working within systems, right? Because they're already established, but there are a lot of potholes within established systems, like such as working within a hospital system or working within an mental health agency, right? It's like it's already set up, it's already established, so the patients are there. You already got the clientele. You don't have to go out and look for them. They're already there, right? But then your approach is somewhat kind of constricted by the rules of the policies of the system, and even if it's not a written policy necessarily surrounding a particular approach that you may have or way of intervening and treating the patients, it's just people like who are in so-called positions of power administration. It's like their opposition, to certain things. It's just because it's like it makes you question, and even sometimes patients will say this, like, do they even give a fuck? Are they really working to treat us and help us get better? I mean, just look at the outcomes. You can do your own fucking observation research to see, is it really helping or is it hurting? Are they being rehabilitated or are they fucking getting worse? And why? Now one can say, okay, part of that, one of those factors is the patient themselves, right? And how much effort they put into their own progress and getting better. That's one component. But I would like to say a bigger component is just the system, the way it's set up. It's really not designed to help them get fucking better. I mean, it can be, but anytime you're trying to treat behavioral problems, so to speak, or mental illness with, that's a whole nother conversation. I did do a whole video on psychotropic medications, but y'all already know what I'm about to say, those who are tuned in. Yeah. Moving along. Alright. The naked eye only sees the mountain. Faith moves her out of the way. You look at the side effects on some of those, seeing how it creates like involuntary movements. That's not healthy, man. That's not even ethical if you ask me. There gotta be a better way. Those people come out changed, not in a good way. And this is how you can tell if it's ethical and appropriate treatment and intervention. Same people who administer those medications to those patients. Ask them, if it was your mom, given that you give a damn about your mom or someone that you love dearly, and you had the authority to decide if they should get that medication, would you give it to your mom or your dad or whoever you love in your family? Would you sign off on that and give that? Hell no, you would not do that. You would not give them that shit. So why are you giving it to somebody else, child? That's what I'm saying, yo. You already know my shit political. That's the reason why they don't be showing my video to a lot of y'all. If I was on this motherfucker cooning and shit and jumping and jiving, it'd be a lot of people watching my shit. They control who sees and who doesn't see my goddamn videos, and that's the reason why it's like this. Probably for my own goddamn safety too. But yeah, I know my shit political. Anyway, the naked eye only sees the mountain. Not on purpose though. It's not that I'm purposely trying to be political. It's just that I got my own mind. Like I was saying earlier in my walking vlog video. Faith moves her out the way. How, motherfucker can't dictate me and tell me what the hell to do. Cause I ain't no robot and I got my own mind. Um, even growing up, like I was saying, you know, my own parents who portaled me into this existence can't tell me what to do. But anyway, that's a whole nother story. Um, but it's all still related, right? So, your passion is not just worth dying for, it's worth living for. Tomorrow, so given, I only got 2 left, right? Down to the wire. I only got these 2 left. So, I gotta pick 2 fire quotes. Now, here are the remaining quotes. I have several quotes remaining. Tomorrow is moments away, and yesterday is just a memory in space. Today is your day to make history. Productivity will change your mood. Oh, that's a good one. I'm going with that one. Given that a lot of these guys are sedentary, they are very lethargic, don't really have motivation, and I'm a firm believer in what I had a psychology professor, really good. I think I still remember his name, Dr. Orden, I think. Undergraduate psychology professor back at Florida State University, and I think he taught psychopathology. He used to say the opposite of depression is participation, and it stuck with me. It's very powerful. Now we know depression, for y'all to be getting on here want to argue and shit. We know depression is neurobiologically based, but there are things that you can do behaviorally that can change that, right? That can help modulate those neuroreceptors in your brain. Alright, the road to success can be a dangerous and costly journey. Some get lost trying to find it, others lose themselves on the way there. I don't think that's really applicable to this population because they they barely motivated to get up and get out of bed and take a shower. So talking about success, that would be a totally different, like higher functioning population. There's only one difference between the person who became successful and the one who did it. The latter person always looked in the wrong place to find it. Success is who you are. Yes! It's one of the treats in my story, one of the big lessons. It's actually, I think, part of my synopsis, like one of my advertisement synopsis for my book. I talk about success a lot. You can't speed up something that takes time to develop. If you try, you will retard its growth. Although you may not see the results instantaneously, you can rest assured that change will come. Before every outcome was the process it took to get there. That's deep, but I'm going to have to save that and not, I don't think I'm going to do that. I'm going to go back to this one. Tomorrow is moments away, and yesterday is just a memory in space. Today is your day to make history. I like that. Living in the present moment. Dr. Umar talking about he looking for Winnie Mandela. I don't want that. I think Dr. Umar, he all talk. I ain't gonna say all, but motherfucker talk a lot of shit. Tomorrow's moments away. Yesterday is just it's like just because you don't see a person doing work don't mean they're not doing it, right? You don't really know a person till you really get to know, till you know them, right? And if you go by what a person posts on social media, you can be very misguided and disillusioned, and thinking that you think you know them, but you really don't. People have a whole facade that they portray on social media. That's not who they are. And especially when it comes to doing like politically driven work, smart motherfuckers ain't gonna sit up here and advertise that shit on social media. That's just not the proper move, because he knows this. Like, we're talking about warfare. You don't let your right hand know what your left hand is doing, or vice versa. Today is your day to make history. You don't want to even let the enemy know what the hell you're doing. So that's not something you advertise. He want to talk about, like, he talk bad about people on social media and posting this, but he has that social media mindset that, oh, if a person don't post on social media, they must be not doing the work. He been a psychologist, know way better than that. You gotta sit down and really get to know a person. Tomorrow is moments away. Yesterday is just a memory of space. Today is your day to make history. Now, given that I had my attention divided while I was writing these, I'm going to go back and read them just to double check. Productivity will change your mood. The naked eye only sees the mountain. Faith moves her out the way. What appears impossible to the naked eye has already been called into existence to those who have faith. Faith sees what the naked eye can't see. I believe that if you think too much about a thing, then your thinking may somehow get in the way. I realize that a lot of steps I take towards a particular goal I don't think much about. I make the first step, and before I realize it, I'm within arm's reach of my goal. Getting old isn't about focusing on what you have lost. Getting old is about looking at all of the priceless things you have gained. Let your light shine ever so bright that the world can see. When your faith is in it, it will succeed. Yes, it will, honey. The secret to happiness is simple. Just accept yourself and find an appreciation for life. Some blessings of God. Close this. Some blessings of God are already in us. Some are readily visible. Others you have to look deep within. You don't need a bond or court hearing to be released from the prison of the foolish opinions of others. Your freedom is in your own thinking. To pass the battle, we must be willing to take up our armor, hold on to our faith, and go on to the battlefield knowing we've already won the battle. In life, we must go through some battles. The battles come with many. The battles come, it should say, but whatever. With many trials and tribulations, obstacles and setbacks, denials, and listen, I'm from the South, okay? Let me stop. An overachiever's worst nightmare isn't facing death or an unexpected tragedy. It is facing the possibility that he or she... Now, pause, bro. I had to think about. Like, it's funny how white people, let's say ignorant white people, right? Because not all white people are ignorant. But ignorant white people, those white people who are ignorant, shall I say, and like they forgot history. Like, y'all uprooted us from where we was at, chilling in Africa, brought our black ass over here, right? Denied us the right to fucking read, learn how to goddamn read, but then you want to fast forward years later and say, oh, we illiterate, or we don't speak proper English. What kind of fucking sense does that make? Anyway, it's just like the audacity, yo. And black people, we so motherfucking tamed and shit. You know what I'm saying? But like, white people want to be mad at black people, but they really need to be chilling the fuck out. Because you really think about it, we are very complacent. Black people are very agreeable, forgiving. You know what I'm saying? If we black people was to really sit down and really think about this bullshit, and I think that's why white people fear it. They know they done fucked up. Like, you know you done fucked up, right? They know they done fucked up. That's why a lot of them hyper vigilant. But a lot of black people doesn't sit down and really think. I mean, just sit down and really think. Lose that motherfucking mind. Yo, this whole system be fucking uprooted. For real, yo. Fuck going to work. Fuck all that shit. A lot of us have already woken up. You know, you can tell those like completely unplugged from the system. Said, fuck this shit, right? But it's like kind of self-sabotaging for those that say who refuse to work, you know, so how you gonna eat, right? Granted, you don't agree with the system and having to work for the man, but then how you gonna live? How you gonna take care of yourself? How you gonna keep a roof over your head, right? So it's self-sabotaging, you know. Gotta find a better way. Did I read that one? In life, we must go through some battles. The battles come with many trials and tribulations, obstacles, and setbacks, denials, and letdowns. An overachiever's worst nightmare isn't facing death or an unexpected tragedy. It's facing the possibility that he or she will never be able to measure up to the asinine expectations of this world. Are you not convinced that your purpose is to live, and to live is to fulfill your purpose? Dreams are visions waiting to happen. Yes! Okay, so my quote, that's part of like my advertising quote that I use when I promote my book, American Dreamer. Dreams are merely seeds waiting to be planted. Dreams come to those who have a desire to dream. Consider a dream the seed and the tree the manifestation of that dream. So they all read like they should. Granted, I was somewhat distracted while I was writing some of these, but they're ready to go. And I'm ready to hand them out for those who attend group. For those who want to stay in their rooms, they not getting one. But for those who come, then I can tell I used to be a teacher. I actually used to teach my dolls, yo, back in the day when I was a little girl, like grade school, elementary school, grade school girl. I used to like have a bunch of teddy bears, and I would line up my shoes in the form of a classroom setting, right? Like as desks. The shoes, like my shoes, would be the desk, and I would put my teddy bears, dolls, like in front of the shoe, right? One in front of each shoe. I have a whole classroom setting. Had a notepad. I would take attendance, and I would be like literally back there, like teaching class. A whole session, like sessions, just like how I would play. Granted, my older sister, she was 3 years older than me, but I never was the kind of kid that played with like girls, so to speak. When I did play, it was like with my male cousins who live in a totally different city than I lived in. So yeah, so outside of that, I just would play by myself, and that's how I kept myself entertained. Interesting. But on that note, I'm going to end this video because my mouth is tired. My muscles are tired. I'm tired of talking. I'll catch you guys later. Feel free to drop your comments below. I love giving. I'm in the spirit of giving. Yeah. And yeah, I'm ready to finish my book, American Dreamer. It's time. It's time, y'all. It's time. Yeah, I watch too many fucking movies, huh? That comes from Belly. The end of Belly. It's time, y'all. It's time. Find me something to eat. Don't pull it out too fast. Some of these incense be taking a while. Here we go. Here we go. There we go. Alright. Catch y'all later. Love you guys.